Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Today we're working on this Toro Recycler, and it's got the Briggs Quantum engine, which is my favorite engine in the world. But the problem it's got is the owner let it sit for about a year. He had somebody else cut in his yard, and so now it just won't start. Now, whenever that happens, it's always going to be the carburetor, but this time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to leave the ultrasonic, and we're only going to do what's absolutely necessary to make this thing start. So let's get started. Okay, we're only going to need about 4 bits for this. The quarter, the 5/16, and the 3/8. And of course the Phillips in case we have to take the cover off. You don't have to, but it makes it a little bit easier to do. So we're going to take our 5/16 and pull the air filter. Air filter looks pretty okay. And we're going to keep it, take the rest of the air cover off. Make sure you take lots of pictures and get yourself a magnet to keep your screws on, because it's pretty easy to lose the screws along the way. And that one's on there to stay. Either that or my batteries are dying. And the only thing holding it on is the crankcase ventilation, little tube here. Okay, now the next thing we'll do is take the top off. And that's just 2 Phillips screws. Where you at, 2 Phillips screws? There you are. And the reason we're taking that off is with the auto choke on one of these Quantum engines. You'll save yourself a lot of work if you go ahead and take this off. Take off the lever that operates the choke. And use care not to move it around much. And by the way, this is another place to take a picture. Make sure that you understand how this goes together before you take it all the way apart. Now, just looking at this one, you can tell it sat for a long time because you can see where the fuel here is just gummy and yuck. Now we'll get our 3/8 up. Wrong one. Now we'll take our 3/8 and take the other 2 bolts off. Now this doesn't have a traditional gasket. This is operated with an O-ring. Okay, now our carburetor is completely clear. The only thing holding it on is the fuel line and the linkage up top. So we're going to loosen it up here. And we don't know how much fuel's in it. But whenever you're doing one of these, this is a really good time to replace the fuel line. So we're going to go ahead and pull the fuel line off first. And whenever one sits for a while, the inside of the fuel line can deteriorate and just ruin the inside of the line. Okay, now we got, and remember, take lots of pictures. This is a good place to take a picture. And our carburetor is free. So let's take it over to the bench and pull the jets out and see what she looks like. And it's pretty predictable that after one of these carburetors sits for a while, that the jets are going to be a mess. I'm not quite sure why this one's fighting me so much. They usually pop right off. There we go. Now we've got a little run here and the infamous jet. So let's take a look at the jet and see what kind of shape she's in. You can see the top is completely covered in dirt, and that's just old fuel. In order to clean it, what we're going to do is we're going to run a wire down the center. And this is just plain old floral wire that you can buy at a craft store. And then you'll find a hole on the side. You can see on this one, the hole on the side isn't letting us through. And that's the money right there. That's where the problem is. And with this particular engine, now that we can see daylight through here and through the top, it'll start on the first pull once we're done. And that's ready to go. That's a clean jet. Doesn't look clean, but it is. It's not the outsides that count, it's the insides. We're going to go here because of the amount of sludge in this one. And we're running the wire just straight up the middle. And that runs to a hole in the center of the carb, and that's how your fuel gets in. You can see we're checking here. Our O-ring went with the carburetor. So we're all good there. Now check the float and make sure it's moving. It does not appear to be moving. Yep, so the float's not moving at all. So we're going to have to pull that off and figure out why. That would explain why the carburetor is dry. I'm trying to use care not to damage the float while I do this. And if I had a carburetor in my hand, I would go ahead and replace this one only because it's that sticky. We're going to probably have to run it through the ultrasonic to get her all cleaned up. There you go. It's coming a little at a time. And the float's out. What we had here was the float, after sitting for a year, just got stuck in place. You can see just small bits of corrosion here. So I'm going to clean this out with a Q-tip or something and clean this up real good, and we'll get her back together. Okay, I've got this cleaned up and we're ready to put her back together. I cleaned up the needle, and I also cleaned out in here because the needle was rubbing all over the place. You see now it moves pretty freely. And you always have to watch. If we hadn't caught that, see now it moves the way it's supposed to. It was just stuck when we started. Now we're going to take our clean jet, put it all back together. And it's a pretty safe bet that this will start on the first turn. Okay, this fuel line, it looks okay, but it had old gas sitting in it for a year. So we're going to go ahead and drain the gas. We're just using this for an extension cord. Okay, the fuel line we're using is Gates 27002. That's the number on the roll anyway. Now let's go ahead and take the old line off. And we're going to measure it for the new one. Because on all mowers, the line is as long as it needs to be and no longer. But the Gates, I like because it's threaded and it's nice and flexible, so it makes it easier to work with. I'll cut this. Okay, now we're going to take the clamps off the old line and put them on the new one. And this line may look a little bit thinner than this one, but it's only because this one sat for a year with bad gas in it and it expanded a little bit. See the difference? These both started life as 1/4 inch line, and that's why you replace it every time. So let's get our new fuel line on, and now we can throw our carburetor back on. When you put the carburetor back on, remember to go in the opposite direction of the way you took it apart. Just follow the steps backwards. So the last thing we did was remove the linkage. So we're going to go ahead and put the linkage on. Next thing we did was the fuel line. That was the next to last thing. So now put the fuel line on and go ahead and get it clamped. And on almost every lawnmower ever made, if you don't get the fuel line the right length, it'll fight you to no end trying to get it back together. It'll still fight me a little bit. Okay, let's get one screw started. There you go. That'll hold her still a little bit. I'll get the other screw on. There you go. And she's in running condition. All we have to do is put the trim back on now. Okay, now for the fun part. First pull. And I feel lucky. Okay, now the noise cancellation's off, you can hear it. She sounds pretty good, and she starts right up. I almost forgot to put the choke back on that one. But with one of these lawnmowers, and it's any lawnmower, any brand, every lawnmower ever made, the choke and the jets, if it won't start, you got to go to the carburetor first, and it's either going to be the jets are clogged, due to bad gas, or the choke's not operating correctly. It got stuck somehow in a position. In this case, we took care of both. The choke was operating right. We cleaned up the jets, and she runs like a champ. So, are you new people out there? If you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free, and it's what we work for. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.